A beautiful boy was born into the world, but not into a family. His parents were young, unmarried, afraid. They couldn't raise him, so they gave him away. Even before he could speak, he was rejected. The boy was Steve Jobs. He was born on February 24th, 1955, in San Francisco, California. His birth parents, Joanne and Abdul Fattah, were students. They weren't ready. They put him up for adoption, but the first couple who agreed to adopt him changed their mind. They wanted a girl. Rejection again. Eventually, a mechanic and his wife, Paul and Clara Jobs, took him in. They gave him love, a home, and a promise that he would one day go to college. Steve grew up in California in a modest home. He wasn't easy. He was curious, restless, always asking why. He didn't like school. He got bored. He didn't fit in. But he loved machines. He loved design. He believed, even as a teenager, that computers could change the world. He enrolled in Reed College, but dropped out after just one semester. Still, he kept attending classes: calligraphy, design, philosophy. He wasn't enrolled anymore, but he quietly sat at the back of classrooms, listening, learning, not for grades, but for inspiration. He didn't have a place to stay, so he slept on the floors of his friends' homes. He collected empty Coke bottles to earn a few coins and walked long distances just to get one free meal at a Hare Krishna temple. His parents were still in California, but at college he was on his own. He didn't ask them for money. He chose to struggle because freedom meant more to him than comfort. But even then, he chose to keep learning. In 1976, at just 21, Steve Jobs and his friend Steve Wozniak co-founded Apple Computer from a small garage in Los Altos, California. Together, they built their first product, the Apple One, not for scientists or big companies, but for ordinary people. It was simple, it could sit on a desk, and it changed how people looked at technology. They built each computer by hand and sold them one by one. Then came their second computer, the Apple II. It had color graphics, a keyboard, and was ready for homes and schools. This time they sold it everywhere, across the country. It became a massive success and turned Apple into a real company. Two young men had become tech pioneers. But over time, Wozniak quietly stepped away from the business. He didn't enjoy the corporate world. He preferred inventing and creating with his hands, while Steve wanted to change the world. Steve was brilliant, but intense and often difficult to work with. By 1984, he launched the Macintosh, a computer with a mouse, graphics, and beauty. But behind the scenes, things got tense. Steve clashed with his team and with Apple's CEO, John Sculley. At first, they worked well, but over time, they disagreed. Steve wanted bold innovation. Sculley cared more about profits and stability, not risky innovation. Steve attempted to take back control by trying to have Sculley removed, but Sculley found out and informed the board. The board, once inspired by Steve's vision, now questioned his every move. Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he had created. He was just 30. He later said, "It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it." He didn't give up. He started a new company, Next, a computer company focused on powerful systems for universities and businesses. It wasn't a commercial hit, but its software would later help build the foundation of future Apple systems. And another, Pixar, an animation studio he bought from George Lucas. Under Steve's leadership, Pixar partnered with Disney and gave the world emotional, groundbreaking films like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and Up. Pixar changed animation forever and became a billion-dollar success. In the middle of all this, Steve Jobs also found love. In 1991, he married Laurene Powell, a business student he had met at Stanford. By the mid-1990s, Apple was struggling. Sales were down, and its vision was fading. So in 1997, it bought Next, not just for the software, but to bring Steve Jobs back. And just like that, Steve Jobs returned to the company that once threw him out. This time, he was quieter, sharper, focused. He simplified Apple and launched the iMac, the iPod, then the iPhone, and finally, the iPad. He didn't just create gadgets, he changed the way people communicate, think, and live. He believed that design had to speak to the soul, that technology could be human. But then, in 2003, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He refused treatment at first, tried alternative healing. Later, he underwent surgery. He kept it private, but the world could see. He was shrinking. Still, he kept working, kept creating. In 2005, he gave a speech at Stanford University. It became one of the most shared speeches in history. He said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." In 2011, after years of fighting illness, Steve Jobs stepped down as CEO, and just weeks later, he died. October 5th, 2011. He was 56. He was adopted, rejected, fired, and told he was dying. But through it all, he stayed curious. He kept dreaming and never gave up. And gave the world something different. Not just computers, but vision. Not just design, but purpose. He is no longer with us, but his creations are in every home. His thinking is in every pocket, and his story in every heart that dares to dream differently. He changed the world, and his name will live on forever. Steve Jobs. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want more inspiring journeys, check out our other videos too.